6 p.m. I will state that we do have a quorum present, and we have Councilman Vaughn joining us remotely today. I will ask for us to stand and have the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by Councilman Corey Guy. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's all remain standing. This evening, our kind and Heavenly Father, I come thanking you. I come thanking you for waking me up this morning. I come thanking you for watching over my family as we slept last night. Lord, I come thanking you for watching over this county. I come thanking you for watching over each and every citizen in this county as they slept last night and as they went to their jobs this morning and as they came to this meeting and as they went home to their families this afternoon, Lord. Lord, too often we come asking you for things and never come thanking you. So tonight I come thanking you for everything that you've done in my life and everything you've done for this county and each and every person in this county, Lord. Then, Lord, I ask that you watch over the Foster family, Lord, who lost a loved one, Mr. Rock Foster, who worked for Cud's Heating and Air for a long time. Lord, I ask that you watch over his family, keep them strong, and let them know that he's there with you, Lord. And then I ask that you watch over the McCory family from off of Robin Circle who lost a loved one, Lord. I ask that you continue to watch over them. And then, Lord, I ask that you do a special watch over our fellow council member, Mr. Mike Vaughn. I ask that you continue to watch over him, bless him, and build him up where he's weak, Lord, and heal his body. These and all other things, I ask in your son Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right, thank you. All right, so our first order of business is to have an amendment to our agenda tonight. I'd ask that council would consider, we would need a motion for this, but would consider removing item 8A, which is the second reading of 2025-10.
I make a motion we change the agenda to go with your request.
All right. You have a motion?
I'll second.
And a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right, all in favor. Thank you. Next up, we have the approval of minutes. Item 3A is the March 17th, 2025 council meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion we approve March 17th, 2025 council meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right, all in favor. Next is 3B, which is the March 20th, 2025 special called meeting council workshop minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the March 28, 25 council workshop minutes.
I'll second.
All right, so we've got a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion? I'll call for the question. Those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All. Mr. Vaughn, did you vote on that one, or did you recuse yourself on that?
I didn't attend that meeting.
All right, thank you. So next up, we have item 3C, which is the March 28th, 2025 council workshop minutes.
Make a motion to approve the March 28th, 2025 council workshop minutes.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I wasn't at that meeting.
Okay. And anything else? I'll call for the question. Those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
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 I wasn't.
Wasn't there either. All right, so we've got two council members who were not there. All right, thank you. It is approved. Next, we have citizens' comments. We have one person signed up. I'll ask that when I call your name, if you'll step forward, you'll have 3 minutes to speak after you say your name and address. And that person is Wes Drummond.
Good evening, Council. Wes Drummond, live at 1949 Darby Road, Chester, South Carolina, just south of the York County line. Here to talk about the item number 10C on the agenda, which is the rezoning request from an ID2 to RG1 located at the old Eureka Mill site. We have parceled out, currently that site's 27 acres. We have parceled out roughly 8.5 acres of that and are looking to do 60-unit multifamily in phase one of that site. This would be north of the old mill site and the stacks. Lays out really well. You will see too, there are some solar panels on here that we'd be looking to build to backfeed power to those multifamily units. This matches a lot what we built right there in Rock Hill by my office on the corner of Cherry and Constitution. Those multifamily units actually have solar panels on the roof. But really feel like this could be a great addition to this side of town. Happy to answer any questions when that time comes, but this is what we're really excited about and looking to do with that parcel of land. So,
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. That brings us next to the public hearing, which is item 5A, the ordinance 2025-7, approving the execution and delivery of a development agreement between the county and Vista Resources LLC and providing for other related matters. I don't have anyone signed up to speak. Next is 5B, ordinance 2025-8, providing for an amendment to ordinance number 2021-18, provided for the use of excess funding for projects and/or capital projects as provided for under ordinance number 2019-5 and providing for other related matters. No one signed up to speak. And then last we have ordinance, item 5C, ordinance 2025-9, providing for the imposition of fees for services provided by the county inside municipal limits, acknowledging the municipality's consent to provide such services, invoking the pending ordinance doctrine, and other related matters. Don't have anyone signed up to speak on the sign-up sheet. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to any of those? If not, I will declare that this public hearing is closed. That brings us to item 6A under ordinances, resolutions, and proclamations. 6A is the third reading of ordinance 2025-9, providing for the imposition of fees for services provided by the county inside municipal limits, acknowledging the municipality's consent to provide such services, invoking the pending ordinance doctrine, and other related matters. Is there a motion on the floor for that?
I'll make a motion, we approve the third reading of ordinance 2025-9.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve and a second. Is there any discussion?
One item I would like to suggest is Mr. Hester and Mr. McMahon, who is the Richburg Planning Director, and Mayor Harris get into a conversation after we pass this ordinance, if it passes, and have a conversation about what is going to go forward with this. We need to make sure we're communicating with the town of Richburg. If we're going to provide services for them, we need to tell them what those are going to be. That's my only point.
This will include every municipality in Chester County, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Guy.
So, yeah, I agree with Councilman Agee. Just make it clear, clear understanding with them as to what services we're going to be charging for. And I think you've already met with Richburg, correct?
So, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I can kind of answer those questions and follow up a few comments, if you would. So I think that it's been made clear throughout Chester County through our news and reporter and numerous other resources as to what the intent of this ordinance is. I've had several municipalities' leadership reach out to me and ask how it would affect them, and just remind council that it's your sole discretion to utilize this ordinance. And if you look at the latest version, and that's what I wanted to point out, Mr. Chairman, and the rest of council, is that our last version that you all have a red line copy of is a little bit of a change from the last meeting, and we discussed it, but it wasn't in writing. And so it actually discusses page 2, letter N. It talks about the county has the ability to charge an initial and an annual cost associated with services. And it takes out the word developmental fees and P and just calls it a fee. And then section 2 at the bottom, imposition of residential fees. And again, it just says that at the county's sole discretion, basically, it can be a per unit fee, it can be an annual recurring fee based on that service. And just want all of council to remember that, and those that are listening and watching, that those developmental fees go for critical infrastructure items when we have development. And without those, when we have to provide that service, the taxpayers in the rest of the county eventually bear that burden. And then the other fees that we discussed is, again, we have a consultant that's doing a fiscal impact analysis currently on every service we provide. And so we will have that, once that study is complete, council can make a determination how they want to proceed when annexation occurs. But again, this starts from the date that this was first reading, when pending ordinance doctrine was enacted. I spoke to the city of Chester today in depth, and they fully understand, and their previous annexations are grandfathered in.
Thank you.
Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Those in favor of this third reading of ordinance 2025-9, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All in favor? All right, that brings us to 6B, which is Resolution 2025-9, amending Resolution 2024-7 to amend the list of capital projects being funded as part of a program of general obligation borrowing and other related matters.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2025-9.
I'll second.
All right, is there any discussion?
Yes, can the administrator expound on that a little bit?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Guy. Mr. Chairman, council members, so last year in our capital bond, if you remember, council approved, and these are only a few items, you approved numerous items, but as part of that bond, you approved 6 compactors for recycling, 5 open-top containers for recycling. There were electrical upgrades for those recycling compactors. And then, if you remember, our intent was to buy a roll-off truck and hire a driver for that position to haul our own recycling. Many things happened, as you remember, towards the end of last year. One of the largest being that we couldn't get the truck in a timely manner. And then the need for a landfill supervisor, so council voted to approve moving that position for that driver. And then without being able to get the truck in a timely manner as we thought we were going to be able to, we ended up signing another contract, a 1-year contract, with our current hauler for that recycling. So what I'm requesting from council is that capital that was allocated for 174, 33, and 286 to reallocate by resolution 277, 469. That'll allow us to the compactors and the open tops. That'll allow us 4 more compactors at some of the other sites. Remember, we have 11 sites, so that'll give us 10 compactors throughout our 11 sites. We have money left in the electrical upgrades to pay for those compactors to be installed, so that number doesn't change. And in this year's capital, there was a request this coming year, the fiscal year you haven't seen yet, there was a request for a dump truck for the roads department that is a much-needed new addition to our fleet. And so we've gotten a quote for that at $182,680, and so we would just replace that original 286 with that 182 and then add to the compactors. So just a resolution to approve us to make those changes.
Thank you.
All right, is there any more questions or discussion? Call for the question. So those in favor of resolution 2025-9, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. All in favor? All right, so tell you what, before we put this resolution 2025-10 up for discussion, I'll read it. Providing for changes or additions to the county employee personnel handbook relating to the grievance policy and procedures, social media policy, and the addition of an artificial AI policy, and providing for other related matters Before we take a motion on that, Mr. Hester, would you please kind of inform us?
If
Ms.
you don't
Hartman?
mind, I'll
Absolutely.
explain a little bit more. So, good evening, council. This resolution allows for the following. For the grievance policy, it adds clarification. Can you hear me? Okay. It adds clarification as to who can be considered an introductory employee. It adds additional time for employees who are out on leave of some kind to file a grievance, or at the time of dismissal from his or her position, they're allowed to file a grievance as well. In terms of the social media policy, the resolution adds language to the policy. If an agency is dealing with the public in a time of hardship or strife, it's imperative that we be mindful of that hardship when posting these situations on social media platforms, and to gain consent from the private individuals prior to posting that information online. As to the AI policy, this is a new policy completely for Chester County. It increases as AI increases popularity and utilization within the government and workplace setting. This sets parameters, limiting AI sources and providing guidance to employees who do utilize AI. We thought this was a good baseline to get started with that policy. As time goes on, we'll learn more information, of course, and may have to amend, but at this point in time, this adds a basis for us to begin kind of watching that, make sure data is safe and secure.
All right, so at this time, is there a motion on the floor?
I make a motion, we approve Resolution 2025-10.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, is there any discussion?
I have a question for the attorney. Let's make very sure in the social policy we are not infringing on the right of freedom of the press. Because anything that's taken in the public, the city of Charlotte actually takes pictures, from what I understand, and puts it in, their fire department takes a picture of the fire and puts the address and everything of the fire and addresses that. So let's make sure we're not infringing on things of the press. Because one of the pictures is in the Discovery magazine that the Chester News and Reporter just put out of a structure fire. That was public information somewhere along the line. So let's make sure we're not infringing on somebody's right to freedom of freedom of expression. I'll get it out in a minute.
So absolutely, Mr. Agee, we'll definitely take that into consideration, but to be clear, our employees, Chester County employees, our policy governs what they can post on our social media. So this will not infringe
County
on.
social media.
That's right.
Okay.
That's correct. This is referring to Chester County employees.
All right, is there any more discussion, questions? I'll call for the question. Those in favor of Resolution 2025-10, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All in favor, thank you. So that brings us to item 6D, which is a proclamation in honor of National Dispatcher Week. And so I have that in front of me. I will read it. We have a lot of special guests in the audience tonight, so welcome and thank you all for coming. Our proclamation in honor of National Dispatcher Week, whereas the second week of April each year is designated as National Dispatcher Week, a time to recognize and honor the critical role that public safety dispatchers play in ensuring the safety and well-being of our communities. Whereas public safety dispatchers serve as the vital link between the public and emergency responders, providing critical information and support to law enforcement, fire, medical personnel, and other first responders. Whereas dispatchers work tirelessly behind the scenes, often under high-stress conditions, to ensure the swift and efficient response to emergencies, demonstrating exceptional skills in communication, problem-solving, and crisis management. Whereas the work of dispatchers is essential in saving lives, preventing further harm, and maintaining the public's trust in emergency response systems. Whereas the men and women in public safety dispatch services deserve recognition for their dedication, professionalism, and commitment to the safety of others. And whereas National Dispatcher Week is an opportunity for all citizens to express appreciation for the valuable contributions of these unsung heroes of emergency services. So it says, now therefore, I, Pete Wilson, Chairman, on behalf of the Chester County Council, do hereby proclaim the second week of April as National Dispatcher Week and encourage all citizens to join in recognizing the hard work, compassion, and professionalism exhibited by dispatchers in our community and across the nation. The Chester County Council extends our deepest gratitude and appreciation to the dispatchers for their unwavering commitment to the safety and security of our residents and the exemplary service they provide to our emergency response teams. So this is done on this day, the 7th of April. So thank you very much. Any members of council have any comments?
I have one just for the sake of argument. Friday was hell in Chester County. Ever who the dispatchers were working Friday, thank you very much. There's a whole bunch of volunteer fire guys, police officers, EMS people out on I-77, and it was just a nightmare. When you stand in the back of the fire department in Richburg, and I-77 is coming down through downtown Richburg, thank y'all for what you do. We really appreciate that. Men and women out there on that interstate taking care of that for us. Thank you.
Sheriff Dorsey, looks like you. Please come forward.
Well, council, thank you for recognizing this important week, and thank you for recognizing the men and women that do this job. It takes a special person. We have some of them in the room this evening, and I'd love for them to stand up here and be recognized. The director is Doug McMurray. Assistant director is Justin Moss. We have supervisors, we have dispatchers, we have CAD managers, we have TAC officers, we have a lot. So if you don't mind, if y'all would stand, as they stand, I just want to tell the audience and you that over 240 calls are answered in 911 dispatch centers across America, 240 million every year in America. And this crew, this is a small representation of our team. The others are back working, or they're asleep because they've got to work in the morning, or they've got to work tomorrow night. But this team and their colleagues, they answer about 80,000 telephone calls a year. Imagine your telephone ringing about 80,000 times and you having to answer it. And they answer it on average around 3 seconds. It does not ring for longer than 3 seconds. And generally they do that with 3 dispatchers per shift, while they monitor 45 radio channels at the same time. And so those are amazing feats that these men and women do every day. And they don't get the recognition that they deserve because they stay in that room and they're kind of like behind that wall, and nobody knows they're there until you call, and they're the only person that can get you the help you need. And so I applaud what they do, and I'm very appreciative of them, and thank you all for recognizing them for what they do.
We have the proclamation right there.
Yeah.
There we go. All right.
Okay.
Half of y'all on the dais, half on the dais, taller people on the dais. Less tall people. Let's go on down. Get in, man. You good? Don't knock her down. Otherwise, we don't want to stand on the platform behind us.
Good smile.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank y'all very much for the work you do and for coming to our meeting tonight. Thank you. All right, so our next item of business is item 6E, which is a proclamation in support of fair and equitable housing. And that reads, whereas the state of South Carolina enacted the South Carolina Fair Housing Law in 1989, and whereas the Chester County Council desires that all citizens be afforded the opportunity to attain a decent, safe, and sound living environment, whereas the Chester County Council supports fair and equitable housing for all its citizens regardless of race, religion, color, sex, national origin, disability, and/or other familial status in the sale, rental, or provision of other housing services, whereas April is recognized nationally as Fair Housing Month. Now therefore, I, Pete Wilson, Chairman of Chester County Council, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2025 as Fair Housing Month throughout Chester County. So we have that as well. So another one to think about for the month of April. So brings us to item 7, which is Administrator's Report. Mr. Hester.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Give me 1 second to pull it out of the bottom here. So I'm just going to run through a few items. Bear with me, but some good news to report. Chester County Fire Board met on Thursday, April 3rd. The board discussed and reviewed many key aspects with regard to the future of fire service. Before the new county fire board was established, which has only been recently, there were 2 bodies representing fire departments across the county, the Fire Commission, or the Rural Fire Board as it was, and the Fire Chiefs Association. For the first time in many years, all 12 departments and their chiefs were present to conduct business for the new county fire board. It shows a commitment by the chiefs and the departments by charting a positive direction for the fire service in Chester County. I want to just kind of brag on them a little bit. This is my 3rd budget year, and budget time is always a very tough time for Mr. Darby and I, and we take a lot of requests and try to funnel down into a much smaller budget. And many times in the past, from the rural fire community and rural fire board, the requests were rather extensive and tough to fit into those budgets. And there's been a lot of discussion with this fire board and the chiefs, and what they came back with for their budgets was nothing short of just the best way to put it is that they understand the fiscal responsibility that's needed. Their budgets, Mr. Darby's in the audience, we were very pleased with their submissions. Some of them actually reduced what they asked for. And I thought that was in a time when, you know, every dollar counts in government, just that recognition on their part, including their capital requests this year. Some departments that saw an increase in maybe whether it be their fee and lieu revenue or whether it be in their fire district tax revenue actually didn't request any capital and are using the extra dollars that they got. So I'm proud of our fire board, our new fire board, and all the chiefs and the hard work they're doing to ensure that every dollar goes in the right place when it comes to fire protection. And we really got some great things. I'm not going to let any cats out of the bag for the budget year, but Mr. Darby and I think are going to have some amazing information for you. Now we're locked into it, Mr. Darby, on our first workshop. So just an update on the fire board. Just a reminder for council, as we move forward with the subdivision code review and all the workshops, and I know Mr. Ward and our staff, we really appreciate all the hard work you guys have put in and all the workshops and meetings and the planning commission that's taken place thus far. And I just wanted to update you on a timeline and make sure everybody was on kind of the same page. Planning Commission had a special meeting on April the 3rd. where they discuss draft 2, which you all have a copy of that subdivision code. Draft number 3 will be sent to the Planning Commission and to council on April 9th. April the 15th, the Planning Commission will review draft number 3 formally and then formally send their recommendations to council. On April 21st, at our regular scheduled meeting, it will be an agenda item where council can discuss draft number 3. So with that, I urge and ask that all council members take the time to review that draft 3 and have any questions or comments, anything that you want to talk to myself or Mr. Ward ahead of time before that April 21st meeting, or anything that we want to discuss in that open session discussion as well. The next scheduled meetings will be May 5th, May the 19th, and June the 9th, which will be all regularly scheduled council meetings where we'll have first, second, and third reading. And if your question is, well, what if council makes major changes on April 21st or has major recommendations to what the Planning Commission approved on April 15th, or what they approve on April 15th, then the simple part of that will be that we will postpone or push back one meeting or as many meetings as we need to, that first, second, and third reading, so that it can go back if there's a major change or requested from council to the Planning Commission. If it's minor adjustments that don't need to go back, then we'll move forward. So just wanted to kind of update everyone on a timeline and make sure that everyone understood how critical this timeline is with regard to discussing on the 21st. Next, wanted to give an update on our county website. As you know, you all voted last year in the budget to approve a website redesign and upgrade. We're making great progress. And having a little trouble there getting those words out. Excuse me. We're making great progress and are approximately 40 to 45% complete. We have dedicated significant time and effort to the formatting, look, and feel to create a very modern website. We continually review the layout, and it looks like we're pretty well on track to probably another 6 months, and we'll be finished with that redesign. And then just one last update. If everyone remembers, the Chester-Fairfield County boundary was being realigned, and there is a final effective date that the Chester-Fairfield County boundary plat was certified on March the 6th. The schedule for the effective date for it to fully be go into effect will be June the 10th, 2025. And so just an update on that. And with that, it concludes my administrator's report, Mr. Chairman.
Do you anticipate, any significant changes in that?
In the boundary?
Yes.
I know that there are obviously changes within it. To the extent, I have not heard any major issues with any of the residents that have been involved, and they've had, I believe, 2 public hearings thus far.
The place where I'm interested in is the Fairfield County boundary and the Chester County boundary on the river.
I have not heard anything.
All right, so next item is our consent agenda. Item 8A has already been struck from the agenda when we started, so that leaves us with 8B, the third reading of ordinance 2025-8, and 8C, the third reading of CCMA 25-01. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All right, is there any discussion? Call for the question. Those in favor to approve the consent agenda, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right, all in favor. We don't have any old business, so item 10A under new business is the first reading of CCMA 25-13, Daniel Duncan, requests tax map number 079-01-10-005-000 located at 610 Saluda Road, Chester, South Carolina, 29706, from General Commercial District to Limited Commercial District. The Planning Commission voted 5-0 to approve. What's the pleasure of council?
Make a motion to approve first reading of CCMA 25-13.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, the motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, I call for the question. Those in favor of the first reading to approve the first reading of CCMA 25-13, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All in favor? Next, we have item 10B, which is a first reading of CCMA 25-14. Kimberly Zarko requests a portion, 1.5 acres of tax map number 040-00-00-078-000, located at 1937 Baton Rouge Road, Chester, South Carolina, 29706, from Rural 2 District to Rural 1 District. The Planning Commission voted 5-0 to deny.
I make a motion, we uphold the planning commission's vote to deny CCMA 25-14.
All right, we have a motion to deny. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. So I would ask if we could I ask Mr. Ward, our Planning and Development Director, to come forward and maybe kind of give us an overview of this one.
Chair, Council, honored to be with you this evening. This is a request from the applicant, Ms. Kimberly Zarko, for a piece of property located in Westchester off of Baton Rouge Road. The property in total is roughly 3.997 acres. That is inclusive of the road right-of-way. The applicant was originally proposing to subdivide 1.5 acres off of the parcel in the rear in order to construct a stick-built single-family house for a relative. The applicant at the Planning Commission meeting stated that she would consider changing that survey request for it to be 2 subdivisions of approximately 2 acres apiece, which would comply with the zoning. The zoning district is R2, Rural 2. And that is the same zoning district for roughly 3 to 6 miles in all directions. There was some concern among the Planning Commission that if a smaller lot size of 1 acre was allowed for this lot, then that could set a precedent for the surrounding area. Once again, this is a largely exclusively 2 acre residential district for most of Westchester. So it would be a significant change to allow 1 acre home sites. The survey was later found after the meeting to be inaccurate. The original survey did not include, the original survey did not exclude the road right-of-ways, which the road right-of-ways and any easement right-of-way is not allowed to count towards the 2 acres or whatever minimum lot size it is for the zoning district. So thus, the only option for the applicant was to continue forward with the rezoning application to County Council in order to request a smaller lot size. Here to answer any questions that you may have.
She's got to, at the end of the day, got to go back to the planning commission to do something to correct that.
No, sir, because the Planning Commission has already heard on this matter, it would be a decision in the hands of County Council whether to approve or deny this rezoning request.
But the property is hers, right?
Yes, sir.
Everything else surrounding it is a 2 acre lot though, correct? From what I'm seeing.
Everything else
2 acres
around
or
it
more.
for 3 to 6 miles is zoned for 2 acre lots, obviously because some of the lots were there prior to zoning being instituted in 1999. Some of the lots are smaller than 2 acres near it, but everything is zoned for 2 acre lots.
But if I'm hearing you correctly, per our zoning, to go with anything smaller than that could possibly set a precedence for future problems down the road.
Yes, sir, that was the fear of the Planning Commission.
And if they denied it, why should we overturn it without going back and making sure it's done correctly? I mean, if she has more land, she can obviously correct the problem, right?
Yes, if the applicant purchased more land, then she could correct the problem. The problem here is really a question of how much land the applicant has. It was originally thought that there were 4 acres, not including the roads. And so in that case, you are correct, Mr. Agee. She could have had it resurveyed and come back to the planning commission for 2-acre lots. It was later found that because of the surveyor error, there were not 2 acres exclusive of the roads. There were 2 acres apiece inclusive of the roads. And so there is no recourse to reapply to the planning commission at this point.
And this is all because the surveyor made a mistake?
It would have come before the county council if the surveyor had not made a mistake. If the first survey was accurate, then she could have applied for a resurvey to change those lots so it would be 2 acres apiece. But because of the error in the survey, there is no other option at this point except for rezoning, which has to be approved by the county council.
Well, the surveyor is a licensed professional.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that not correct?
Correct.
So that's a mistake on his part. So their recourse would be to go back and sue him because he made a mistake in a professional manner.
So I want to make sure I'm clear. So when you say it includes a road right of way, you're talking about Baton Rouge Road, or you're talking about a private road on the property or an easement on the property?
It would include both. The property line stretches across Baton Rouge Road, so it actually includes the right-of-way on each side of Baton Rouge Road, and as well as the driveway on the left-hand side of the property, the western side of the property, which they're applying for an easement for that. So it's a road and an easement right-of-way.
So if I'm looking at this plat, or whatever this is correctly, she wanted to originally build a house on the 1.5 acres on the back side of the property.
Yes, sir.
And then she's living on the front side of the property.
I do
There's a
not believe the
residence.
applicant, there is a residence there. I'm not positive if she's living there or not, but there is a residence there.
And then this other little piece that's cut out, it says, proposed egress. I don't know what that, if that's part of something they're cutting out or not.
So that notation on the survey is pointing to what would be a new driveway easement to provide access to that rear parcel.
And then for my knowledge as well as the public, our code, what is the problem? What's our code say that's preventing this from happening? Could you restate that code?
That's an excellent question. So the crux of the problem is that the code, the zoning district for this lot, for this whole Westchester area is the R2 for Rural 2 zoning district, which says that every lot that you build a house on has to be at least 2 acres or more. And because this piece of property that is proposed for the rear is well under 2 acres, it's only 1.46 acres outside of the access easement, then she is applying to rezone it to a zoning district that would allow for 1 acre lots.
So it looks like to me if she rezoned, but like me, she could possibly, from what I'm seeing, go back and rezone where the piece of property where the residence is. She could, no, still wouldn't be, that still wouldn't work. Yeah, no way to make it work.
Well,
But it's
the
still
other
a property,
question
right?
that's not being asked is the well. I mean, if a septic tank, most of this 2 acre stuff came back from a long time ago where you had to have 2 acres to put a septic tank on because the land wasn't perked. So I mean, if the land will perk on 1.4 acres, then I don't see the issue. If it won't perk on 1.4 and it's got to have 2 acres, then that's the problem. At the end of the day, you got to have 50 feet or 100 feet between the well and the septic tank. So that you get into all of that kind of stuff. That was the reason originally that a lot of this stuff was 2 acres. You had to have 2 acres to put a house on in Chester County. It was because the septic tank had to perk and you had to have room for the well.
Mr. Killian?
Yeah, that's still her property, right? That's her land, right?
Yes, sir.
And I always said this, I've been on council for 8 years. I think people need to be able to put what they want on their own land, because it's their land. But we make rules to try to stop them, but it's their land, though.
Well, my opinion on this is, if we're gonna have a planning commission and we're gonna make rules, and we got a planning commission and we overturn what the planning commission voted for based on the rules that were set in the beginning, why do we even have a planning commission if we're gonna overturn everything that they do? If they're going by the rules that says these lots in this area have to be at least 2 acres, if they're going by the rules that have been set by council, the previous council, if they're going by that rule, and then we come back and we overturn it, why do we have a planning commission? I don't think it's fair for us to go back and overturn what we are appointed our planning commission members to do, and then we go back and just overturn it. Why would they even waste time to come to these meetings if we're gonna overturn the rules the precedence has already been set? That's just my opinion.
Sometimes, Mr. Guy, sometimes they be wrong too now.
But
if they wrong, they wrong. We need to change that, because that's their people's land. We shouldn't be telling people what to put on their land. But that's just my opinion.
Well, Mr. Keating, I agree with you 100%. That's my point in the whole thing. Surveyor made a mistake. The lady didn't make the mistake. A professional surveyor made the mistake and did something wrong. Somebody ought to correct that, and he ought to go through putting corrections to it, get it corrected. However, if the land won't perk, it doesn't matter if you got 50 acres. You got to figure out a way to get your land to perk to be able to use a septic tank. It's just that simple. We built a fire station at the corner of Knoxville Station Road. We had to put a special septic tank in there to make that work, the perk. And it was 2 acres of land, but we had to figure out to put I can't remember the name of it, but we had to put a specific type of drain field in there and have a pump to pump it to there. So I'm not opposed to changing it, but I'm like Mr. Guy. If the planning commission is we're gonna listen to them, or we're not gonna listen to them.
Mr. Ward, the original request was for R1 on both lots, is that correct?
Yes, sir, you are correct.
Okay, so if you had rounded up, and you would have had to round up somewhat to get to 2 acres per lot, you could have stayed at the R2 zoning. You wouldn't even have to have this conversation, correct?
You are
So
correct.
the survey wouldn't have mattered in that respect.
Yes, and that was where the confusion with the survey lie, because at the first meeting, it appeared that she could have resurveyed it and rounded it up to 2 acres and in a piece. And in those conversations after the meeting with the surveyor, the mistake was realized and found that wouldn't be an option to have 2 acres apiece because there just wasn't enough land there. So that's where the surveyor, and I will amend my previous statement, her original request was just to rezone that one portion in the rear. It wasn't for the whole lot. It was just the one portion in the rear to rezone to R1.
Can somebody tell her and let her know what's going on?
Yes, sir. I have talked on the
have talked
phone
to
and
her?
emailed with her since the planning commission
It was
meeting.
not really clear from the planning commission, to me, minutes, but was there issue with the change in the characteristic of the neighborhood, if you want to refer to it as that, of having an R1 lot? Or was it just confusion about being able to have 2 acre lots and not even have to have the conversation?
That's an excellent question. It was a combination of those two reasons. It was a combination of thinking that she could have it resurveyed and potentially have an option there that wouldn't require rezoning at all. But then also it was the character of that surrounding area and the worry that if you allow a 1 acre lot in the middle of 2 acre lots for miles and miles, that would set a precedent. So it was a twofold concern.
Well, the term spot zoning was used. Is that a term that I've been told from previously being on the planning commission that was a non-term to use, if you want to call it that. Is there really such a thing in your book that sets that much of a precedent?
In my understanding, spot zoning is a perfectly legitimate term to use. It means essentially that you're zoning something out of character with the surrounding community or perhaps out of character with a comprehensive plan to accommodate one individual thing. And you can argue about where that line is drawn for spot zoning, if it's simply zoning something for higher or lower density, or if it's changing the use from residential to commercial, but it is a valid reason, I believe.
You couldn't subdivide these properties as they would be if we approve this anymore without going to an RS1 or a different zoning, is that correct?
I believe so.
One more question I have for you. So is the owner, does she live at this property? Do you know?
I do not believe so. I believe the applicant lives in Edgemore. I don't have the exact address.
Was it said who lives on the property?
I believe the manufactured home of the
If you don't know,
property
it's
is empty.
okay. If you want to.
I don't think anybody lives there.
Pete,
In the
that's
current
your
residence.
district, right?
It is, it is.
That's what I thought.
All right, is there any more questions or discussion? If not, I'll call for the question. So we have a motion on the floor to uphold the planning commission's recommendation to deny. That's what's on the floor being voted. So we're either voting to approve this denial or to not approve this denial. So those in favor for the motion to uphold the planning commission's recommendation to deny, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right, so we've got 4 in favor and those opposed. All right, so might need to recount then. That we've got 5.
I'm against.
Me too. So
I'm
we're-
against.
At the first reading, I am as well. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Am I right? All right. Tricky counting. So we have 5 in favor of this motion and 2 opposed. So the motion carries.
It may be out of order now, so.
Go ahead.
I would like to see the county council get Mr. Ward, go talk to these people, and let's see if we can't figure the problem out.
So that's a good thing about
I'm trying
having
to help.
readings, right? We have 3 readings to make sure that we exhaust all our options. And so this is just the first reading, so we have plenty of opportunity before the second and third reading.
That's
to
what I was gonna say too. Come back with the corrected or more of an
keep
explanation.
looking for solutions. And I really
First
appreciate.
reading, there's room for more discussion.
Right. I appreciate this council's really wanting to find that solution for citizens. That's really important. And I agree with Mr. Guy too. We have a planning commission, we need to listen to them. But this is the first reading, so I think it was a healthy discussion. This brings us to 10C, which is a first reading of CCMA 25-15. Andrew Cope, request tax map number 079-01-08-004-000, located on Parkway Drive, Chester, South Carolina, 29706, to be rezoned from Limited Industrial District, ID2, to Multifamily Residential District, RG1. The Planning Commission voted 5-0 to approve. What's the pleasure of council?
I make a motion that we uphold the planning commission.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to uphold. Is there any discussion?
I do have one question. Where exactly is this?
Mr. Hester, would you speak to this one?
I would. This is actually the old Eureka Mill site, which is one of the things that I think, a couple of things make it a very good project in my eyes as county administrator. One is its location, the community that it's in, and bringing attainable housing to that community. There's not a lot we can do with brownfield sites. Now, the homes aren't, don't panic, the homes aren't being built on the brownfield site. They're built around the site, and J.M. Cope is cleaning up the site. And they have grants in place or applying for grants to do that cleanup. And the county still has a bond from a previous person who was going to clean it up and never did, and so we still have money that we can assist them with that cleanup as well. But what's unique about this is the use of solar panels on a brownfield site on places that you don't want to dig dirt and build things, and what a great use of that land. And Mr. Guy, I think you and I have talked, there's some old ball fields that are down in there that have been grown up in the community in that area has not been able to use for years. And J.M. Cope has stated that they would go in and either redo those ball fields or add some ball fields in that area around as well, if that specific site wasn't still usable. So I think bringing some attainable housing into that part of our community, bringing it in closer to Chester, and what they're looking at doing is an overall good project. Good use of a piece of land that has been sitting for quite a while.
That's where that old
Andrew
mill
Cope,
at.
is that J.M. Cope?
It's on the backside.
The back.
Yes, sir, Mr. Yes, yes,
Close to
sir, and
where the
yes,
ball
sir.
fields used to be.
I got you.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I think that's actually in my district. I've had, several people approach me about cleaning up those ball fields and utilizing them. When I was young, I actually, used to practice, baseball on those fields. And, you know, with that old mill being there and, I think it got cleaned up some years ago, well, somewhat cleaned up some years ago, and there's a lot of stuff still out there. I think the citizens will actually appreciate having something of some substance right there in that area and having those fields cleaned up. So I'm all for that.
Mr. Guy, that's in your district,
Yes, sir.
am I right?
Yes, sir.
And that ball field been over there a long time, and to me, I think we just need to put a playground somewhere they can play basketball. Them kids need that over there on Roundtree Circle, because they ain't got nowhere to go. I think we need to redo it and make it out a playground for the young kids over there in your district.
How many actual ball fields? It's two over there. Was
There's
Cope
two that are grown up.
trying to
and-
redo
They
both
number
of them,
one.
or?
I'm sorry?
They number one ball field.
No, I think it's two. I
There's
think
two-
it's two.
there's
It's-
two
It's one with
old
the brick
fields there.
backstop, and then there's one with a fence backstop.
One's just down the road a little bit,
If
Mr. Gillian.
you know, if the Coke company can find
Oh,
some funds in there to kind of put something else other than the ball field, that may be nice too.
Yep.
For the citizens who live there, as well as the community that's going to use it.
I'm not going to put Wes on the spot out there with James Coke, but he's been very amenable.
I'm gonna put him on the spot.
You they've been very amenable to being a good partner in that area. So I think we can definitely, and again, whether the county participates in that, but we can definitely do something to make it special.
Thank you.
Is this definitely J.M. Cope doing this?
It is. It is, yes, sir.
J.M. Cope. I'll tell you an interesting little story. Y'all can all tell all the stories you want to about the Eureka Mill. I cut the pipe, put the air conditioning system on top of the Eureka Mill when I was about 18 years old, before I went in the Navy. So that's how old I am. It's good to see it being cleaned up and reutilized. Thank you.
All right, is there any more discussion? All right, so we have a motion to approve this first reading of CCMA 25-15. All in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. All right, all in favor. So that brings us to our boards and commissions. First, we have 11A, which is a Catawba Regional Workforce Investment Board resignation, and that is the resignation of Valencia Bolden. Is there a motion for that?
I'll make a motion, we accept the resignation of Ms. Bolden.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second to accept her resignation. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right, next we have, all in favor. All right, so next we have item 11B, which is a Catawba Regional Workforce Investment Board appointment. We do have an application in our packet for Linda Sudol. What's the pleasure of council?
I make a motion, we appoint Ms. Sudol to that position.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to appoint Linda Sudol. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
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 All right, motion carries. Next, we have the 11C. We have the Hazel Pittman Center Board of Directors appointment. Councilman Raines?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Jessica Smittle to the Hazel Pittman Center Board of Directors from District 3.
I'll second.
All right, is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, all in favor. Next, we have item 11D, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board resignation. Vice Chairwoman Mosley.
Yes, we had a member of that board to, he's going to be moving out of the county, so he sent in his resignation letter, and that was Mr. Forrest Baker. And I do appreciate him and his work on Parks and Rec Committee. He's very much a go-getter, so he'll be missed. But I'll make a motion we accept his resignation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept that resignation. Is there any discussion? Those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. All right, Council Vice Chair Mosley, again with Parks and Recreation Advisory Board appointment.
I'll make a motion that we accept the application for Mr. Kerry Wright to the Parks and Rec Board.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right, that brings us to number 12, which is executive session. Item 12A is a discussion or receipt of legal advice arising from potential representation and litigation related to healthcare issues within the county. B is receipt of legal advice where the legal advice relates to the county landfill. C is the receipt of legal advice as it relates to a workers' compensation matter and an EEOC matter, or workers' compensation matter and a EEOC matter. And then D, we have discussion of a personnel matter related to the county administrator's office. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make a motion we go into executive session.
Second.
Second, is there any discussion? All in favor, raise